If you struggle with limiting money beliefs and know that it's you that's in your own way when it comes to going to the next level in your financial journey so that you can create financial freedom and generational wealth, then you're in the right place. Today's conversation is all about how to shift your money mindset, not only for you to have a different way of relating to money, but also having a different way that you interact with it, right? Because you probably, if I had to guess, know how to make money and you sure know how to spend it, but you're struggling with how to save it and multiply it so that you don't have to work hard for the rest of your life. I'm really excited to share with you one of my students, my star students, Nikki, and her story of having paid off $30,000 or so before we ever started working together, but having gone back into debt, feeling guilt and shame, and just not having the best way of seeing how money could work in her life for her, to being able to end the year with more savings than the year before, shifting completely who she was when it came to money, finding alignment with how her and her new husband related to money and managed it as a couple as they grow their business and their wealth, and how to completely change from feeling overwhelmed and stressed, depressed, and out of sorts to having peace on a daily basis, being able to step into your purpose and truly every single day live the life of your dreams. Stick around, it's going to be a great time. And if you want to be a person who gets to have a conversation with me one day telling a success story like Nikki's, I would love to chat with you. We have a few spots left in our community to be able to join us to transform your life and your finances so that you're able to build generational wealth for your family. And all you have to do is book a complimentary financial consultation below, and we'll hop on the phone, me and you, to be able to get clear on what your challenges are, what your goals are, and how to fill that gap with our proven system. So I can't wait to chat. Go ahead and use that link in the description below to book your call today and enjoy Nikki's amazing story.
The level of peace that we get to walk in every single day is night and day from where it was a year ago. Like my therapist could tell you, like, I was probably through a season of depression like a year ago.
I would just love to know, like, what was your biggest challenge before we started working together?
So before we started working together, one of my biggest challenges was really, I guess, being stuck within like the limiting beliefs that I had for so long. And that was around money. It was around who I was supposed to be as just like a woman. At the time, like I had just gotten married. So like who I was supposed to be as a wife. And yeah, I think my greatest challenge was really pushing through that because like I was my greatest lid. And I really had to overcome like trying to like like unlearn some of those like fundamental beliefs like around money and around like, you know, not being so rigid with my goals of like ending or having that outcome of where I thought I needed to be. And yeah, like I feel like a lot of it, yeah, I was the lid, I think is what I came to realize.
So is there a time or a specific belief that you can think of that kind of was reoccurring or kept coming back to, you know, be that lid for yourself?
Yeah, something that I think one of the things around money is I just didn't have a great foundational like understanding of money in terms of like I knew how to make it, I knew how to spend it. I wasn't great at saving it. And also in my head, I'm like, I could always make money. I could always like provide. So like, even if I was to get into debt, I was like, I know I could pay it off. Like, yeah. But there was no, so I guess the limiting belief that I had developed was, okay, if I want to take it to the next level in wealth and financial freedom, then that means like debt is bad. But also like I don't know how to like grow my money unless I had like some kind of business, or like I'm not like super literate in investments, or you know, real estate was never really something that I personally aspired to like attain quickly. So yeah, like I felt like starting around like the whole idea around debt, like I remember when I got back into debt, like I was like, I'm a failure.
Oh.
Like I just was like, man, like you just backslid. Like I think that's what something in addition to like, I kept thinking like, oh, like you're exactly where you were 5 years ago. Like maybe you haven't learned as much as you thought you have, or maybe you haven't evolved as a person as much as you have. So I really got down on myself when it came to debt. Like I really, like, it was just like a dagger to the heart type of thing. And I was really ashamed about it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you paid off debt before. How much were you able to pay off previously?
Previously I was able to pay off, like a little over $30,000.
And it's so interesting because that's one of the things that I've been seeing the longer that I've been doing this work is like the ability to achieve a goal such as paying down debt. And like so many people, life happens, things occur, maybe your perspective shifts, which that's called growth. You know what I mean? It's called knowledge and development. That a lot of the times when, for whatever reason, maybe we end up going back into debt, that then it brings up all of this emotional stuff around like guilt or shame or questioning like, you know, ourselves and whether we are actually like on the right path or whatever the case is, as opposed to, I'd love to hear the evolution of your mindset, right? Like if you're feeling less like the lid, then what have things developed into over the course of the last like year or so?
Yeah. So like specifically, or one, I really had to, like, you and I had specifically worked together and like learning how to forgive myself and like understanding like we're living like this long life, you know, and knowing that things happen. And you know, now that I do find myself in debt again, I don't see it as like this like heavy weight. Like it's, you know, it's something I take ownership and responsibility over. It's not like my head's in the sand, but I really have been so much more kinder and have so much more grace for myself in knowing like, you know, since we worked together, I haven't gotten into more debt. I've just been like trickling it back down. But at the same time, you know, my husband and I have also started a company where we rent out audio equipment. And even with that at first, like we had to leverage some of that bigger things. But, you know, at the end of this year, it's like knowing that like majority of our equipment is now producing cash flow and there's no longer payments made on it. We just have one, you know, big piece of equipment that is. So it's not looking at it as like, oh, like we're digging ourselves deeper. It's more so like, oh no, like we're actually able to now like look at debt and like leverage it. And being able to create another funnel of income for us both that can work passively for us. So yeah, like I feel like it's not as such like a shameful thing to carry versus before, like I didn't even want to think about it or acknowledge it or even admit that I had gotten back into debt. Like I was so like to the point where I was like I had such a negative outlook on debt. Like that's, I think, part of the reason why I don't even own a house yet, because I was afraid to mortgage a home.
Right.
You know, like, so it's like all of those little things. But I think, yeah, like back to your question about like how my mind has evolved, I think it really had to start with like forgiving myself and not being so like carrying so much shame and knowing like I'm just a person, like, you know, it happens.
Yeah. So the fear of debt, or this idea that it's bad, that it's going to hold you back, that it somehow has maybe, I don't know, I guess a bearing on like who you are as a person. Like it's
I really took it in as like an identity. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And developing into thinking about it differently, right? Which I guess everyone to each their own. And so, you know, it's not for me to tell anyone how to feel about something, and more so, as we've talked about and worked together, like what makes the most sense for you in this season of your life, to have the most peace, to be able to move forward and not be halted by whatever the circumstances, let's say, in your, because it is what it is, like you're in debt, so it's like, what are we gonna do about it, right?
And, so and I think even looking back to like getting back into debt, it's not like I like spent a lot of money on like vacations or like had this shopping problem or, you know, anything like that. I just think it was like, and going through life and transitioning to different careers. And at the time too, when I think was slowly getting back into debt, it was like at a time where I was in an industry where the market had shifted and like I just had to pay my bills. Like I just had to literally buy groceries and do all of those things. But I think now looking at, okay, like, yeah, like I don't like use any of my credit cards at this point. Like I said, we are just paying it down and just stewarding our money in a more like in a better way, I guess. Yeah, like now looking back at it, I know it's like, I know I didn't have like any like superficial problems that like I had to felt like I had to like keep up. It was more like, to your point, like it's just adjusting to life. But I think in this journey, it's also helped me mature more in my finances more than I ever have. In every other facet of my life. Like it didn't just looking at the debt, I'm like, okay, now it's like I'm looking at how we live like holistically, how that has like affected us like in a good way financially too.
Can you dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah. So, I mean, my husband and I, like, we definitely like looked at our finances, and, food is our biggest hole. Like, and I love to cook, and I cook at home quite often. And, it's not like we're going to like these insane dinners like every week, but we had to really take a look at it. I was like, okay, well, where are we shopping? Like even there. And I was like, okay, like before, like I used to think, oh, like shopping at like a Sam's Club or like a Costco, like it seems so excessive because it's just the two of us. But learning, like, I'm like, oh, but also like spending $1,200 a month on groceries for two people is also insane. Like I'm not buying like Wagyu and lobster every week, like, so it was just kind of learning to pivot again, and like learning how to like shop smartly, like with our groceries. And then from there, like, we agreed, like we didn't want to just be like, okay, well, we're done eating out, like, and just be so rigid. Like for me, like as a person, like I'm that way, but my husband's like, no, like then you're gonna end up like binging and all of the things, like it's like a diet. So we kept our date nights, like, but because I was cooking at home more, like as we were trying to like save money and like get our money right, like that's also like helped me like physically and like mentally, like it almost like I'm so much more addicted to my food than we are like going out. And in that way, like I've always been like an active person and like really valued my health. Like that is like one of the pillars of the things that I value. But how it all like, yeah, naturally trickles into like, okay, yeah, like my eczema's better, like my inflammation is down, like I'm down 10 pounds, like I've lost two pant sizes, like, so all of that even. And it all started with a thing that I wasn't like so ashamed about. It was like trying to like tackle our debt, make better choices. And then it all like holistically kind of came together, which like we all know this, but then it's like you see it happen and you're like, oh, it works. Like,
yeah, it's one thing in theory, and it's also like seeing someone else do it, and then like allowing for that thing to happen in your own life and getting past whatever the hang-ups are that hold you back from doing what you know is good for you. I love that. I love it. And I call it like a gateway transformation, right? So it's like the gateway is your finances and getting over that hurdle, and no one's perfect. No financial journey is perfect, but just the effort of being courageous enough to look at something that's scary or makes you feel, a certain way, then forces you to see things differently in other areas of your life too, and like you can't ignore.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, and it started with even I definitely consider myself a foodie and I love to eat, but like I couldn't ignore that like my eczema was flared up for like 3 months. And so just those little things where it's like you kind of just get tired of like sitting in your own crap. And so you're like, I just really do need to make a change. And rather than before where I felt like I was being so restrictive with myself, like I just look forward to the things that I can have. And like, thankfully, like I love to cook and like I can make my food taste really good to where I don't miss, the eggs. I don't miss the dairy and like those little things. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, your meals do look quite tasty.
Thanks.
I'm like, let me come over.
Over
So what do you feel like specifically kind of helped in this development from working together? Was there any exercise? You know what I mean? Like what in particular, how has working together helped, do you think?
Well, I think one of the things is like the resources and knowledge that you already have, that through the course that we were taking, it also came with the like the resources, like the books that we have to read. So like one of them was a 12-week year. And when we first came up with our first plan, like I still look back on it, and though that was over a year ago, I look at our first 12-week plan and I'm like, wow, like like those things, I wasn't microscopically looking at it like every minute of every day. Like I've seen it come to pass. Like it all has come to pass. And so I feel like that has been very beneficial for me in just looking at like like getting really granular and focused on like those little things versus trying to fix everything. And then, being able to have like access to all of your courses and being able to go on these like live cohorts. Coming back a second time, it was like watching a movie for the second time, like just noticing things that maybe I didn't catch the first time, or even just looking at it from the lens of like, okay, like this is what we've been working on for 6 months, and now it's like, now I know what I even want to refine even more. So yeah, I feel like that has been really helpful. And then I think one of the biggest, pivotal moments for me since working together was ultimately like where I ended up with work. And now it's like what this year or the entire like course of the year has been for me when it does come to my job. Like I get to work at my church now full time, and I didn't think it would ever be possible. And I didn't think it would be possible financially. I didn't think it would be possible just within the plans of like what my husband and I like wanted in our life. And to see the fruit of it now, like I'm just so grateful. And it all like was rooted in like a conversation that you and I had during one of our council sessions, and it gave me the courage and to be bold enough to finally at least just have a conversation. And that conversation opened up just like this opportunity for me to work at my church full time, to really feel like I really truly feel like I've stepped into my calling, and like and and it like the Lord has taken care of us. Like financially, he's moved in our lives, like with Carlos's work and our business, and even for me, like being able to get a raise through it, and like being able to like our bills are paid and everything's fine. And I look back and I'm like, man, like this is the hardest I've ever worked in like my entire life, but it has been the most like fulfilling, and there's been so much like richness like to my life that has been added. Like everything in my life is so much better since making that pivot.
Oh my goodness, it gives me goosebumps to think about it, because I just know that, we had conversations about where you were at and what you were doing and how you were feeling, and, just things weren't like the end of the world, but it just wasn't quite right. And, you had these whispers in your heart of what you felt like you were supposed to be doing, or what direction you felt led to move in. And something as simple as like, a conversation isn't commitment. So just learning more, just entertaining possibility, entertaining whatever it is that you really desire, and how that can unfold for you when you just open yourself up. And I think that's a part of, like you said, right? If you were the lid, it's because you were closed off. You were closing yourself off from whatever you thought you might expose yourself to, right? But when we close ourselves off, yes, of course, when you open up, you can be exposed to other things. But you also get exposed to all of the good possibilities that could be beyond what you could ever expect. And yes, like we talk about money and how to help people change their lives financially, but I always love that it's much deeper than that at the end of the day, and that it goes so much further beyond money and that resource, and ultimately becomes very spiritual and very just beyond like the physical material realm that we're living in, you know. And so the more that you can dig into that, the greater the results can be. And like your life has been turned inside out in a lot of ways, but for the good,
I would say, like, and my husband and I talk about this all the time, like the level of peace that we get to walk in every single day is night and day from where it was a year ago. Like my therapist could tell you, like, I was probably through a season of depression like a year ago, because I found myself like doing all the things that I thought I had to do to get to where I thought I needed to be. And I found myself at the end of 2023 just so exhausted from trying, and so like banging my head against the wall, because I'm like, Lord, like I thought this is what I had to do. And he's like, sis, like just finally do the thing that I've been telling you to do and see what I can do with that. And like, And even in just, I don't know, like, again, talking about how, like, like one decision, it really affected everything. Like, even in the place where we're living now, like, everything in our life is just filled with so much peace. And, like, it's easy to think that, like, oh yeah, like change, like it causes that like friction, and you can almost like look at it as like an instability, or like instability, or like something bad. But it's like pushing through that and then getting to the other side. It's like, oh, like I'm so happy we live where we live. Like I'm so happy like I get to do what I do every single day. Like, and looking at how like we didn't die, like we're not homeless, we can eat, like, I feel like I was talking to my husband about how like we're finishing up our second year of marriage, and how like this was also the year that I felt like we really discovered like where our threshold of risk is as a couple. So that was really cool to discover, because I feel like, yeah, like that was a learning curve in itself. When you and I first started working together, was also like learning how to like build a life and like work finances in once you're married to somebody. So
there's so many adjustments, like you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Adjusting when it comes to career changes, adjusting when it comes to, relationships changing, and all kinds of different transitions, depending on a person's life. And it makes me emotional, and it makes me very excited for you. It also makes me very sad for those who are still stuck, you know what I mean? And who are where you were a year ago, and they just don't know what to do, or don't know where to turn, or whatever the case is. For anyone in that situation, I don't know, like, what would you say? What word of encouragement would you give?
I would first say, like, if you are like suffering in silence about it, like absolutely like reach up to your spouse, reach up to your best friend. Like if you have a therapist, like get in for a talk, because I think especially as women, we try to just take it all on our own and not like to burden others. But it's really not a burden we are meant to carry on our own. And like as a believer, like I fully believe, like the Bible says, like to cast your cares onto him, for he cares for us. And so it's like all of that weight, it's like we can leave it, at his feet, and like the Lord can like carry us through that. And I do believe that. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, you mentioned getting married in the last couple of years. And obviously that's a transition in and of itself, right? Finances being one of those things that you have to navigate. How do you feel, the work that you've done in the last couple of years has supported your marriage and money kind of bridges and relationship?
Yeah, so that was one of the things that I specifically wanted to work on, like from a mindset standpoint, when you and I first started working together. And it was the unlearning of like, oh, it all had to be me. Like when it came to like working and earning. Now that I did have another person, not to fully put the weight on him, but it was more like, oh, like we're partners, like we can absolutely earn together, and like we have a joint account. But in the beginning, it was challenging for me to simply like ask my husband, like, can you transfer some money to the joint for groceries? Which is so weird, because it's not like he's ever told me no. It's not like, we ever came into a agreement of like we were going to keep finances separate. We knew we were going to, combine finances. And, when it was time for me to transition out of, make career changes, like we knew he was going to be earning more than me. So of course, like I need to ask for money, but I don't know why I was so shy about it. Which is also funny, because, you make these jokes when you're single. You're like, I'm going to find myself a sugar daddy. No, when you're married, like, I don't know what it is, but I was so shy about asking for money. I think, again, it was that shame, or, like, not wanting to burden, or not feeling like, oh, like, I don't have it. Now
it means
you've
done something wrong, or it means that you have mismanaged your own money. Or
Exactly.
it means, like, there's all these, like, tentacles of thoughts that come up?
It was very strange. So I got to work through that, and definitely not afraid to ask for it now. But I'm very grateful too. Yeah, like my husband's super generous, and like yeah, like that. I'm grateful too that as we've gone through like trying to learn how to like mingle our finances and get through life, like though we've had serious conversations around money, we've never fought over money. So that in itself has been a blessing.
Oh my gosh, you're a good team. And I think because it was, closer to when you had first gotten married that we started working together, right? That these conversations were coming up a lot sooner than like waiting 3, 5, 10 years down the line and we haven't had certain conversations, or we haven't gotten over certain things or developed in our mindset, and now we're kind of doing reactive work instead of proactive work. And I think that the arguments come reactively. You know what I mean? And the progress comes proactively. And so y'all have been such a good team, which is so fun to see, especially as a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm like, this is one of the major things people fight about, And so if you can find a way to navigate the different ins and outs of it, because it's never perfect, it's never seamless, then it just creates a really great foundation for you to springboard off of together, headed in the right direction, knowing exactly like what you want, how you want to create it, and then revisiting things because things naturally obviously change.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, even just like there are months where like we're like, oh yeah, like let's look at our budget together, and then they're like, we're in the new year, and I'm like, we haven't even sat down for our like money meeting yet, so it's just cool to be able to be like, like essentially not, again, like taking the rigidity out of it and like really, but still consistently work towards creating that like consistent habit around being aware about where our like finances are and like having those hard conversations and preparing. That was a huge thing for us too when you and I first started working together, because it was also a time where my husband had just become a freelancer. So like his income is not as consistent as mine. And this past year, I, with the help of some of your suggestions, like we've made better decisions in preparation for those like, months he doesn't work.
Right.
So yeah.
I love it. Okay. So are there any like tangible results that you can think of? Like we've saved X amount, paid down X amount, like what are some of the cool things you feel like you've been able to do tangibly?
Yeah. So, I think comparatively to last year, we have more money in our savings than we did last year. Hey. So that was like a really great feeling to end the year and not be like, oh my gosh, like we had a slow end of year, like we really have to like pinch. So yeah, tangibly, like that was something that we feel really good about, at peace about. Another thing was when we moved, I have this thing around moving. It just, it makes me feel unstable and like all of the things. So I, told my husband, I was like, I really want like this place to be where we plant roots. We make this house a home, like all of that. And so even, I don't know, something as simple as like furnishing our living room, like, him and I are so low maintenance in that like we lived in our last place for 1.5 years and like basically looked like we never unpacked for 1.5 years. So being able to like create that home space, investing in a couch and like the rug and, actually having a place to where we can host friends and like create like more memories with people that we love. Like, I feel like that's been a huge game changer for us. As I mentioned,
still have savings.
Right. And still, we went on, that was another thing. So August is the month where my husband doesn't really have a ton of work going on. And so we prepared for it in May, June, July, when things were really, really busy for him, to where we were able to, for 10 days, be fully off of work. We went to vacation in 2 different cities. Yeah. And didn't have to worry about our bank account. Like, that was such a great feeling as well. Yeah. And then, like I said, like, we haven't gotten into any more debt since we started working together. So, yeah.
So, like, you haven't had to completely stop living, right? In the process of making progress. You've been able to pivot careers, do something that's more aligned, save money, and, like, find a balance that makes sense for you
Mm-hmm.
and your husband. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why personal finance is personal.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just take a cookie cutter approach and say, okay, just go do this plan or just go do that plan. It really, I think, takes getting into the nitty gritty of like, what do you want? What do you value? What pace do you want to move at? And then creating a plan based on those things. And so I think until someone does that, you might feel a little, you can still make progress, but I think someone might feel a little bit incomplete.
Yeah.
You know, like doing just a plan that they find on the internet and like, okay, let's just see how it goes, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay. So then I think the only other thing I can think of is, you know, if someone were thinking about joining our community,
Mm-hmm.
who would you say that person would be? Like, who's the perfect person to join our community? Because everyone, we have a good energy.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yes.
We all belong and we all kind of are on the same wavelength. And like, we want to preserve that.
Yeah.
Who are the types of women you think, you know, go well in our community?
Just from some of the women that I've gotten to know since joining your community, and then just also speaking for myself, like, I feel like I hope that we can reach the women who know that they need to make a change in their life. Like, there's that awareness piece that's already there, but is actually willing to like put in the work. You know, I think I love how like diverse this group of women are, from careers to backgrounds to lifestyles. But I think to the core, it's like we all want the same thing, which is having like that peace and the ordinariness of life with our finances, with just what we're doing in like life and health and what we want for our future. So I would say, it would be the woman who is just maybe just at her wit's end, but like doesn't know what to do and is open to seeking help and open to also maybe unlearning what she may have already knew in the past.
I love it. Yeah. Because y'all are some go-getters.
Yeah, we are. No, we really are.
And you are not here to play. And I absolutely love it because, you know, the energy matches the energy. And I'm like, cool. If you are in a place where you want to make changes, you're open to trying something different, and serious about getting results, then it's like, wonderful. The brakes get released and we can figure it out. And I just remember when we first met, I was speaking at the Women Decision Makers event, and you came up to me right after, and I'm like, oh, hey, you know? And a lot of the time, sometimes, you know, people talk to me or send me messages or whatever all the time about things I want to do, and I'm just open because I'm like, anyone who decides that they want to do something is going to make it happen. But there's a lot of people who talk and they don't walk. And so I just love that, you know, from the get-go, you are straightforward, you're about your business, you know, you wanted to make differences in your own life, you have the things that you know that you want to do and the way that you want to serve and impact in the world. And it's such a blessing to be able to be like a fly on the wall in your life and be able to see these things develop and know without a doubt that everything that you want for yourself, like, is already written and already done. And like the subtle tweaks that we can support you in making can help accelerate the path to you having that peace. And so I have to express my deep gratitude for you allowing me to support you, for knowing you, for being able to just, you know, be a part of your life, because it's just, I can't, it's the way that you feel fulfillment and peace is what I get from being able to support you and all the amazing women in our community. So I got to give you your flowers while I have you here.
Well, no, I mean, and same, like, everything back to you. Just, I'm so grateful that we met, and I'm so grateful that I think you and I both just kind of had like that open spirit to just be like, oh, like, I wonder what she has going on, and like, oh, like, how can we help each other, and like learn, and being able to learn. And for me, just even in your life, like, so many changes have happened in your life in the last year as well, like, especially from a personal standpoint. So being able to see how you handled that really encouraged me as well. Because I think you can come into this space and think like, you know, all these people care about is like making money, and like maybe they want to help people, but like, are they actually living what they're teaching? And I saw that through how you were able to just take on what life gave you last year, and also see how like that has shifted your priorities in your life, and like knowing like, oh no, like Yeah, like, no, like, Jacent is the real deal, guys. So let me just say that here for anyone that's like, I don't know, Instagram is crazy.
Yeah.
But no, truly, like, yeah, like, I'm so grateful, and like, I have so much peace around recommending you to anyone in my life, because of not just how you've impacted me, but just knowing your heart, and like knowing like where you came from, and like what you had to do to get here, and that you're willing to pour that out is very admirable. So
I
thank you.
appreciate you. We'll make sure that, you know, all the things are linked. Maybe our last conversation, for those who
Yeah.
want to hear
Yeah.
about it, is there. And yeah, this journey is actually just beginning, which is very exciting.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited.
many more things to come.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so much.